Anna Mitchell sat at the small, worn kitchen table of their modest home, staring down at the envelope that had arrived just that morning. The cream-colored paper was thick, official-looking, stamped with the city's housing department logo. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked it up again, afraid of what it might say. 3 children played quietly in the next room. 10-year-old Jacob was carefully building a model airplane, his father's favorite hobby that he'd inherited. 7-year-old Emily sat cross-legged, drawing colorful pictures with crayons, and little Sophie, just 3, toddled around chasing her stuffed bunny. Anna's heart ached as she thought of Michael, her husband, her children's father, who had died in a military aircraft accident 3 years ago. He had been a dedicated Air Force pilot, proud and strong. His death was sudden, a tragedy that left the family reeling and struggling to keep afloat. Since then, money had been tight. Anna had taken up 2 jobs, cleaning houses during the day and waitressing in a small diner at night, but bills piled up faster than she could pay. Every dollar stretched thin. The letter in her hand was an eviction notice. It said plainly that unless the overdue rent was paid within 30 days, they would have to leave the house, their home. Anna's breath caught. The walls that had echoed with laughter and tears, the kitchen where she had made countless meals for her family, the backyard where Michael had taught Cobb to fly his model planes, all would be gone soon if she couldn't find a way. She slowly opened the letter again and read the formal words aloud, whispering to herself, "This is your final notice. Please pay the amount of $2,500 within 30 days or face eviction." $2,500, an impossible sum. Her mind raced. Where could she get that kind of money? Who could help? The thought of losing their home was unbearable. Anna wiped a tear from her cheek and stood up. She head to the doorway and called softly, "Kids, come here please. I need to talk to you." One by one, Jacob, Emily, and Sophie appeared, their faces curious and innocent, unaware of the weight behind their mother's voice. Jacob's brow furrowed. "Mom, what's wrong?" Anna knelt to be at eye level with them. "I got a letter today. It says we might have to move out of this house soon." Emily's eyes widened. Sophie clung to Anna's leg, sensing the tension. "What?" Jacob asked, his voice small but booze. Anna took a deep breath. "Because money has been very tight since your dad passed. I've been working very hard, but sometimes that's not enough." Jacob looked down, biting his lip. Emily's lower lip trembled. "We'll figure it out," Anna promised, forcing a smile. "We're strong. We have each other. And I love you so much." Emily nodded, wiping a tear. Jacob gave a determined look. Anna hugged them all tightly. "I will do everything I can to keep us safe, no matter what." As she held her children close, a fierce resolve grew inside her. She would fight for their home. She would find help, even if it meant asking strangers, borrowing money, or working herself to exhaustion. For Michael's memory, for her children's future, for their family. The next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the threadbare curtains. Anna was already up before dawn, her body aching from the 2 jobs, but sleep wouldn't come easy now. The eviction notice hung heavily on her mind like a dark cloud, refusing to lift. She moved quietly so as not to wake the children, but their sleepy faces greeted her as they gathered for a quick breakfast. Pancakes made from the last bit of flour sat on the table, syrup drizzled sparingly. Jacob poked at his plate, eyes distant. "Mom, why didn't Dad leave us more money?" His voice was soft, but the question cut deeper than he knew. Anna forced a smile. "He would have if he could, sweetheart. Sometimes life doesn't work out the way we want." Emily sat beside her brother, clutching her worn teddy bear. Sophie, oblivious to the heaviness around her, babbled and laughed, chasing the sunlight patches on the floor. After breakfast, Anna kissed each child goodbye and headed out for her janitor shift at the elementary school. The worn floors of the school gym were a sharp contrast to the quiet dread in her chest. She wiped the basketball court with tired, steady motions, her mind elsewhere. She tried to focus on the rhythm of her work, sweep, mop, but the eviction notice kept replaying in her head. 30 days, $2,500. Where could that come from? At lunch break, Anna pulled out her phone and scrolled through messages she had been avoiding. A text from a local community center offering emergency financial help for families in crisis. She bit her lip, hesitant. Pride battled desperation. Could she really ask for help? After work, she went straight to the diner. The night shift was busier than usual. Regular customers filled the booths, their chatter and laughter like a world away from her worries. Anna moved quickly between tables, pouring coffee, refilling plates, smiling when she could. But the exhaustion seeped into her bones, and every time she glanced at the clock, she felt the weight of the ticking days. A few customers were kind. One elderly man left an extra tip, a young mother offered a smile and a nod of encouragement. Those small moments were sparks in the darkness. After her shift ended close to midnight, Anna walked the few blocks home under the dim streetlights. The city felt quiet and cold, the shadows stretching long. Opening the door to her house, she was met with silence and darkness. The children were asleep, tucked safely into their beds. She watched them for a moment, their faces peaceful and trusting. Anna sat at the kitchen table again, pulling out the eviction letter. She took a deep breath and dialed the number for the community center. Hello, this is the Family Assistance Program, a warm voice answered. Anna's voice trembled as she explained her situation. The woman on the other end listened patiently and promised to connect her with a social worker who might be able to help with rent assistance. For the first time in days, Anna felt a flicker of hope. Before she went to bed, Anna whispered a prayer under her breath. Please, help us get through this. She kissed her children's foreheads one last time and tried to push the fear away, even if just for a little while. The days that followed felt like living underwater, everything muffled, slow, and heavy. Anna's body ached with exhaustion, but her mind refused to rest. Every morning she woke early, forcing herself up before the children stirred, and every night she fell asleep long after they had gone to bed, too anxious to find peace. Her job at the elementary school was the same. She swept hallways, emptied trash cans, and cleaned classrooms, her hands moving on autopilot while her thoughts twisted in a storm. The children she saw every day reminded her painfully of her own kids. She forced herself to smile at them, but inside, the worry was constant. After school, she raced to the diner for her night shift, where the chatter and clatter surrounded her like a distracting wall. The customers' laughter felt like a cruel reminder of everything she was losing. The tips were small, barely enough to cover a tank of gas, but Anna took every penny she could. One afternoon, the social worker Lisa called. Anna, I managed to get you an appointment with the Housing Assistance Program tomorrow. They can't guarantee anything, but it's a start. Hope sparked briefly in Anna's chest. She clung to it like a lifeline. That night, at home, the children were restless. Jacob sat by the window, tracing patterns in the frost with his finger, his jaw tight. Mom, will we really have to leave this house? His voice was barely a whisper. Anna swallowed hard. I don't know, honey, but I promise, I'm doing everything I can to keep us here. Emily sat cross-legged on the couch, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. I don't want to leave my school, she said, tears welling in her eyes. Anna pulled her close. I know, baby, I know. The youngest, Sophie, toddled around, unaware of the weight in the room. Her innocent laughter was a balm, but also a sharp reminder of what was at stake. The next day, Anna went to the housing office. The sterile LLS and long lines made her feel small and invisible. A tired clerk handed her a list of documents she would need to apply for emergency rental assistance: pay stubs, bank statements, utility bills. Anna's heart sank. How could she produce all this when she was barely keeping her head above water? Returning home, she spread the papers on the kitchen table. The bills stared back at her, like silent accusations. That evening, Anna's phone buzzed. It was a message from the bank. Your account is overdrawn. Her stomach twisted. She had no money left. Later, the landlord called. His voice was curt and cold. Anna, you need to pay rent by the end of this month. If not, I'll have no choice but to start eviction proceedings. Anna nodded, though he couldn't see her. I understand. Hanging up, she sank to the floor, tears spilling over. The weight of failure was crushing. The next morning, she sat with Jacob at the kitchen table, the air thick with unspoken fears. Mom, he said quietly, maybe I can get a job after school. Help pay rent. Anna's heart broke. You're just a kid, Jacob. It's my job to take care of you. He looked down, but the determination didn't fade. At bedtime, Anna lay awake, haunted by the sound of her children breathing softly in their rooms. The home that once felt safe now felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. She whispered to herself, I have to be strong. For them. Days turned into a week, and the pressure on Anna mounted like an unforgiving storm. The eviction deadline loomed ever closer, casting a shadow over every moment, every breath she took. Morning light crept softly into the small bedrooms where her children slept, but Anna found no rest. She lay awake in the dark, staring at the cracked ceiling, thoughts swirling relentlessly. Her body ached from the endless hours on her feet. The janitor's mop in the school gym, the heavy trays in the diner, the countless steps between tables and floors. But the exhaust was nothing compared to the ache inside her chest, the gnawing fear that she might fail her family. One afternoon, after a long day, Anna came home to find a letter from a utility company taped to the door. The harsh words spoke of overdue bills and imminent shutoff. Her hands shook as she picked it up. Not now, she whispered, voice breaking. Inside, Jacob sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by his homework. He looked up as she entered, eyes shadowed with worry. Mom, he said soft. I heard the landlord talking on the phone last night. He said if we don't pay, someone else will move in. Anna swallowed hard, the image flashing in her mind. Strangers living in the house where Michael had dreamed, where her children had grown up. Emily came out of her room, clutching her favorite blanket. Mom, what are we going to do? Anna knelt down, gathering both children into a tight embrace. We're going to keep fighting, no matter what. That night, Sophie woke crying from a bad dream. Anna held her close, soothing her with gentle whispers, but inside, her own tears spilled silently. The next morning, Anna received a call from Lisa, the social worker. "We've reviewed your application," Lisa said cautiously, "but the funds are limited. You might get partial assistance, but it's not guaranteed." Anna's throat tightened. "I understand. Thank you for trying." After the call, Anna sat at the kitchen table, her hands covering her face. She thought of Michael's Voic, steady, reassuring, telling her they would get through anything together. But now, she was alone. Jacob came in quietly and sat beside her. "Mom," he said, voice trembling, "I don't want to lose our home." Anna pulled him close. "Neither do I, baby. Neither do I." She knew she had to find another way. The eviction notice was not just a piece of paper, it was a ticking clock counting down the seconds to the worst day of their lives. The days slipped by like sand through Anna's fingers. Each morning brought a new wave of anxiety, each night a heavy blanket of exhaustion. The eviction deadline was no longer a distant threat. It was a looming reality that haunted every moment. Anna woke before dawn once again. The house was silent except for the soft breathing of her children. She slipped quietly into the kitchen, where the dim light cast long shadows on the peeling wallpaper. She brewed weak coffee and stared out the window at the gray sky, searching for answers she could not find. At school, her work felt mechanical. She wiped down desks, swept floors, and emptied trash bins, but her mind was elsewhere, on bills unpaid, on the mounting debt, on the cold inevitability of losing their home. That evening, after the diner shift, Anna sat in the living room clutching the eviction notice again. She had no idea how she would come up with the rent. The emergency funds might not come through. Her phone was almost dead, and she had no credit left to call anyone for help. Suddenly, the weight of her pride shattered. She pulled on her coat and stepped into the night air, the city lights flickering like distant stars. She walked the few blocks to a nearby church that offered help to families in crisis. The church hall was modest and warm. Volunteers handed out hot meals and shared quiet conversations with those in need. Anna sat at a table, her hands folded, feeling exposed but desperate. A kind woman named Mary approached her. "You look like you're carrying the world on your shoulders." Anna nodded, voice cracking. "I have 3 kids. My husband died. I'm trying, but I don't know how much longer I can do this." Mary smiled gently. "You're not alone. There are resources and people who care. Let's see what we can do." Over the next hour, Mary helped Anna fill out forms for emergency rent assistance, food stamps, and utility help. She connected her with a local charity that might be able to help with clothes and school supplies for the children. They felt a flicker of hope, but also the heavy truth. This was a beginning, not a solution. Returning home late, she found her children asleep, peaceful and trusting. She kissed their foreheads and whispered, "We're going to be okay." But inside, the fear remained. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains, casting pale light across the worn kitchen table. Anna lay awake long before the first rays reached her bedroom window, heart pounding with the weight of the day ahead. Today was the last day before the rent was due. 30 days had passed since the eviction notice, but the deadline had never felt so real, so close. She stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks with tired eyes. The silence of the house was broken only by the soft, steady breathing of her children in their rooms. Jacob, her oldest, was sleeping peacefully, but Anna knew he carried worries too heavy for his years. Emily and Sophie were nestled in their beds, dreaming without a care, and she wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. Slowly, she rose, careful not to wake anyone. In the kitchen, she poured herself a cup of weak coffee and wrapped her hands around the warm mug. The bitterness was a familiar comfort, a small ritual in a life turned upside down. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mary, the kind volunteer from the church. "Good news! Your application for emergency rent assistance has been approved for partial funding. It won't cover everything, but it will help. I'm here if you need anything." Anna blinked back, tears, the relief flooding through her body like sunlight breaking through clouds. It was not the full amount she needed, but it was a lifeline, a chance to breathe, even if just for a little while. Later, she sat at the kitchen table with bills and paperwork spread before her. The numbers were stark reminders of the reality pressing down on them: rent, utilities, groceries, debts. Each figure was a mountain to climb. Jacob entered the room, his face serious but determined. "Mom," he began quietly, "I've been thinking. Maybe I can help more. I found some odd jobs around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, carrying groceries. I want to do my part." Anna's heart ached. "Jacob, you're still a kid. You should be focusing on school and friends. Let me handle this." He shook his head. "I know, but it feels like I'm not doing enough. I want to help keep us together." Emily appeared then, rubbing her eyes sleepily. Sophie toddled behind, teaching her stuffed rabbit. They both climbed onto Anna's lap, wrapping their small arms around her. "We'll help too," Emily whispered. Anna hugged them tight, a bittersweet warmth flooding through her. "I love you all so much. We'll get through this together." That night, after the children were asleep, Anna sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. The quiet hum of distant traffic mixed with the soft rustle of leaves outside. She let her breath out slowly, the tension easing just a little. But deep inside, the fear lingered. What if this help wasn't enough? What if the next month brought more hardship? What if she failed her family? The questions haunted her like shadows in the dark, but she refused to let them win. She whispered to herself, "I will keep fighting. For Michael, for the kids, for us." A single tear traced down her cheek, but this time it was not just sadness, it was resolve. Days passed, each one blending into the next like an endless gray haze. The partial assistance Anna received had given her some breathing room, but the constant juggling of bills and work hours was draining her spirit. At the elementary school, Anna moved through her janitorial duties mechanically. She smiled faintly at the teachers who greeted her with warmth, but inside she was a tempest of worry. Jacob was trying hard to help. After school, he took on small jobs mowing lawns and running errands for neighbors. His cheeks were flushed with the effort, and his eyes at times held a wariness that didn't belong to a boy his age. One afternoon, Emily came home from school unusually quiet. Anna noticed her sitting on the couch, clutching a crumpled note. "What's this?" Anna asked, gently. Emily hesitated before handing over the paper. It was a letter from the school counselor, inviting Anna for a meeting. That evening, Anna met with Mrs. Reynolds, the counselor. The small office smelled of old books and crayons. "Anna, I wanted to check in on Emily," Mrs. Reynolds began kindly. "She's been having some trouble focusing in class lately, and I know things have been difficult at home." Anna nodded, swallowing a lump in her throat. "It's been hard," she admitted. "We're trying our best." Mrs. Reynolds smiled gently. "The school has resources, counseling, after-school programs, even some financial aid for families in crisis. We want to support you." Anna felt gratitude but also shame. She didn't want her children to be defined by their struggles. Later that night, Anna sat at the kitchen table, the eviction notice folded but never far from her mind. The reality was stark. Even with help, the debts loomed. Jacob entered quietly. "Mom, I saved some money from my jobs." There, he handed her a crumpled handful of bills. Anna's eyes filled with tears. "Jacob, you don't have to do this." He shook his head. "I want to. We're in this together." Anna pulled him into a tight embrace. "Thank you, sweetheart. You were so brave." What the strain was visible in all their faces. The laughter in the house was quieter, the smiles more fragile. Anna knew the fight wasn't over. The eviction notice was still there, a ticking clock counting down to uncertainty. Yet, beneath the weight, the family clung to hope, small, flickering, but real. The chill of late autumn crept into the small house, seeping through the cracked window frames and rattling the thin panes. Outside, the bare branches scraped against the sky like desperate fingers, and the wind whispered stories of change and loss. Inside, the air was thick with fear and exhaustion. Anna pushed open the front door after a long night at the diner. Her muscles ached, every step heavier than the last. The familiar creak of the floor greeted her, but the house felt colder than usual, not from the draft but from the weight pressing on her heart. Jacob sat at the kitchen table, textbooks and papers strewn about, but his eyes were distant, hollow, and dark circles lay beneath them. He looked up as she entered, his face pale, voice barely a whisper. "Mom, I'm scared." The words struck Anna like a blow. She dropped her coat and rushed to his side, dropping to her knees. "I know, baby. I'm scared too," she whispered, pulling him into a fierce embrace. "But we're going to face this together." Emily and Sophie peeked from the hallway, their small faces drawn and serious, the innocence of childhood slipping away too quickly. Emily's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Sophie, he clutched her favorite stuffed bunny tightly. Anna kissed the top of Emily's head. "We'll get through this. We have to." The following day, Anna's phone rang just as she sat down to eat the meager lunch she had managed to prepare. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello?" The landlord's voice was sharp, devoid of sympathy. "Anna, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but the rent hasn't been paid. I have no choice but to start eviction proceedings first thing tomorrow morning." Anna's hand trembled. As she gripped the phone, the words echoed in her ears, a grim countdown to losing everything. "I understand," she managed to say, her voice cracking. The line went dead. Anna sat frozen, the phone slipping from her hand onto the floor with a dull thud. The room seemed to close in on her. The walls that once held their laughter now felt like a prison. She sank into the nearest chair, tears streaming freely now, tears of fear, frustration, and deep sorrow. The fight she had promised her children suddenly felt impossible. Yet, despite the overwhelming despair, footsteps approached. One by one, her children gathered around her, their small bodies pressing close, seeking comfort and offering it in return. Jacob looked into her eyes, his voice firm despite his own fear. "We're not giving up, Mom. We fight together." Emily nodded, wiping her tears. Sophie reached up to hold Anna's hand. Anna's tears slowed as she looked at the faces she loved more than anything in the world, afar. Agile but determined, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Yes," she said, voice stronger. "Together." That night, as the children slept fitfully, Anna sat by the window watching the darkness outside. The eviction notice was folded neatly on the table, a reminder of the harsh reality closing in. But inside her, a spark remained, fragile, yes, but unbroken. She vowed to fight, to protect her family no matter what. Because losing this home wasn't just about a roof over their heads. It was about losing the last piece of their life with Michael, their hope, their future. And she wasn't ready to give up. The morning dawned cold and gray, heavy clouds pressing down on the neighborhood like a low ceiling. Anna woke before sunrise, her mind racing with the weight of what was to come. The eviction hearing was scheduled for that afternoon, and with every tick of the clock, her hopes seemed to fray further. She dressed quickly, trying to steady her trembling hands. The children were still asleep, their breath soft and even, oblivious to the storm swirling just beyond their walls. Anna kissed each one gently, her heart breaking in the quiet moments before they faced the inevitable. At the courthouse, the halls were cold and sterile, buzzing with the chatter of dozens of people caught in their own battles. Anna clutched the papers Lisa had helped her gather, rent receipts, pay stubs, and letters of support. Her palms were sweaty, but she forced herself to hold her head high. The landlord sat across the room, his lawyer beside him. Anna felt a pang of anger but also exhaustion. She wasn't sure she had the energy left to fight anymore. When the judge called her name, Anna stepped forward. She spoke clearly, explaining the hardships, Michael's death, the struggle to keep afloat, the partial assistance, the children's needs. Her voice trembled, but the words were honest and raw. The landlord's attorney presented their side. The unpaid rent, the contractual obligations, the landlord's right to reclaim the property. After a tense pause, the judge delivered the verdict. Eviction would proceed, but Anna was granted a 30-day extension to vacate, allowing time to find alternative housing. Anna felt a mixture of relief and despair. More time was precious, but the threat still hung heavy. Back at home, she shared the news with her children. Jacob's face tightened in frustration. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Sophie reached for Anna's hand. "We'll find a way," Anna said, trying to sound braver than she felt. One day at a time. That night, Anna sat alone in the dark living room, the quiet hum of the heater the only sound. She allowed herself a single moment of weakness, tears falling freely as the enormity of the challenge crashed over her. Then she wiped her face and stood. The fight was far from over. The final days in the house stretched painfully. Boxes filled every corner, the walls echoed with memories both bitter and sweet. And Anna moved through the rooms with a heavy heart, trying to imprint every detail into her memory. Jacob helped where he could, carrying small items and keeping the younger sisters entertained. Emily packed her beloved books carefully, whispering promises to return one day. Sophie toddled around, confused but trusting her mother's steady presence. The day before the move, Anna sat with her children in the small living room, the air thick with sadness and quiet hope. "We're leaving the house, but not our family," Anna said softly. "No matter where we go, we'll be together. That's what matters." Jacob nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "We'll be okay, Mom." Emily squeezed Anna's hand. "We'll make a new home." That night, Anna lay awake, heart full of fear and hope intertwined. She thought of Michael, his laughter, his dreams for their family. She promised herself she'd honor his memory by being strong, by building a future for their children. Moving day arrived with grace, ease, and a chill in the air. Friends from the church and neighbors helped carry boxes and furniture into the truck. Though tired and worn, Anna smiled gratefully at the kindness around her. Their new apartment was smaller, cramped, but safe. Anna unpacked slowly, creating space and warmth with familiar things. The children explored their new rooms, finding comfort in the little changes. That night, Anna tucked them into bed, feeling a fragile peace. "We're starting over," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Emily's face. "Yes," Emily smiled sleepily. "A fresh start." Anna looked out the window at the city lights, breathing deeply. The road ahead would be hard, but together they could face anything. For her husband, for her children, for the life they still had.